What's up, everybody? Let's talk Jets radio. Quick video here in the dark. Having trouble sleeping tonight, so just driving around a little bit. A little over 2 weeks left until final cuts, which I believe are August 29th, I want to say off the top of my head. Still got 2 preseason games left. You got the joint practices Wednesday, Thursday this week against the Bucs. I'll be out there, so if you guys are there, give me a shout. But a lot of interesting roster battles are starting to take shape right now, some of which I don't think many of us saw coming. So just going position by position right now, starting with the quarterbacks, it's cool to talk about Zach Wilson in a positive light. Is he where we all hoped he would be for a number 2 overall pick? Probably not. But just going off of where he was last year, where he was admittedly, struggling with confidence and really not getting any better. He said it himself on Hard Knocks that, things were kind of getting worse every week. It's nice to see him actually making strides, showing some progress, putting a little touch on the ball, not throwing interceptions. Pretty sure he only has 1 throughout all of camp right now. So he's been looking solid. Is every play perfect? No. He's had some bad ones in there, but a lot of nice throws. You actually see him going through progressions at times. So it's good to see some progress with him. As far as Boyle goes, he looked okay in that first preseason game, got the ball out quick. But is he the answer? I'm not really sure. Do you trust Zach Wilson in a meaningful game where there's a lot more pressure, the lights get a little bigger? Tough to really gauge exactly where he's at versus better competition. Hopefully, again, none of them are needed, but you obviously want to prepare for what if, right? If Rodgers does happen to miss a game or two, and that game ends up being important, possibly the difference between home field advantage or not, winning the division or not, making the playoffs or not, you want to have somebody competent that can go in there. Yes, the team has won games before with Zach Wilson. They won games with Joe Flacco. So it's not like neither of these guys can do it, but you want to give yourself the best option. And if another veteran does become available, you wonder if Boyle's spot could be up for grabs, because I do think Zach Wilson is still a part of their long-term plans right now. Going to the running back position, really nice to see Michael Carter playing well. It definitely looks like he's back to his rookie form, just the way that he's cutting and moving, getting to the outside, just a quick stop and start. You love to see that from him. I think Zonovan Knight looks good. I've been saying all camp, though, I feel like Carter's just been a step ahead of him, which is kind of different from what you're hearing from a lot of the media. And then it's cool to talk about Izzy also, because he looks like a completely different player from where he was just a couple weeks ago, where it kind of looked like his head was spinning, didn't really look confident at all. Had some drops in camp, and now you're really seeing that speed start to stand out, where he brings a different dynamic and a different element to this backfield, where, if you're pairing him with McCole Hardman out there and Garrett Wilson and Conklin, like there are so many different ways that this Jets offense with Rodgers now leading the show that they could beat you. So I don't think Izzy's going to go anywhere. They invested a mid-round pick in him. I think they do see a future for him. So now you wonder, is Dalvin Cook completely off the table now that Izzy's stepping up a little bit, or is that money better spent somewhere else? Going to tight end, this group, my God, it's crazy that we're talking about 6 tight ends that are all making plays for the New York Jets right now, between Conklin and Uzomah, who, it appears have gained a real chemistry already with Rodgers. He's always looking for them in practice. You want to throw Nick Bowden in there as well. He's been stepping up. I think he's got that fullback spot locked up. I don't think he's going anywhere. But even beyond Uzomah and Conklin, Ruckert, I know he got hurt on Thursday or on Saturday, but he's been playing well, showing some nice progress from where he was as a rookie, where he couldn't even get on the field. Now, I don't know if that was LaFleur or him just, getting acclimated to the NFL, but certainly seeing some good things out of him, some nice athleticism. And then beyond your top 3, you got a nice battle brewing between Yeboah and Zach Kuntz. Both, had touchdowns on Saturday. And even E.J. Jenkins, he also scored a touchdown, 6'7", undrafted free agent, pretty athletic. So tons of competition there. I do think the Jets are going to keep 4. I keep saying I think Yeboah has a step up right now on Kuntz. Yes, he was a draft pick, but he was a 7th-round pick. Still a little bit raw. I still want to see a little bit more, just as far as whether or not he can hold his own as a blocker, because I feel like Yeboah is just a little bit more polished as a wide receiver. And also, he's been, with the team for 2 years. I know it's a new offense, but, just being in an NFL locker room, being a part of these training camps and on the practice squad, I think that does help him. Going to the offensive line, and it's amazing the contrast in the trenches right now. where you look at the offensive line and there's such a trickle-down effect based on what you get out of Mekhi Becton, or if you get anything at all out of Mekhi Becton, because right now I think the plan is still for Dwayne Brown to ultimately be the left tackle. Now, you still got to wait another 10 days for him to be out there, so you're not going to see him at all in preseason. So you're really only going to go by a couple weeks of practice to try to figure out if he's actually ready to go for week 1 against Buffalo. And if he's not, Becton's been getting a lot of work with the twos. I don't think any of us want to see Billy Turner out there, but he is a veteran. He's going to be on the roster. Max Mitchell, he's kind of been up and down, started strong, struggling a little bit more recently. So Mekhi Becton is the one player that has the ability to impact several positions on this offensive line, where if he's not ready to go, if he's still laboring on that knee, if he can only still get 25 reps in another week or two, I don't know if the Jets can depend on him at all at any point this season. And at that point, you have to start asking, is it worth it just to make the move with AVT and try to make him your tackle, not just for this year, but possibly for the future as well, considering Brown's probably going to be retired after this year. Becton most likely won't be back, and you're going to have at least one, if not two, potential tackle vacancies. So, it's something that helps you in the short term, but it could also help you long term as well, just having some consistency on that offensive line going into next year. But I think the plan, or not the plan, but what they're hoping for is that either Brown gets healthy or Becton starts to show a little bit more progress at a faster rate, where they could just leave AVT alone at guard and plug in one of those two options at tackle, along with possibly Max Mitchell. I don't know if the plan still involves Becton possibly moving to right tackle if Brown is healthy. And at that point, you have to wonder, if Brown looks good, if he looks ready to go, is Mekhi Becton's roster spot possibly in jeopardy? Or would they potentially look for a trade? Could he possibly want out if he feels he's ready to go and he should be a starter? So a lot depends on Mekhi Becton and what you get out of him, and whether or not that knee is feeling good in another week or two. As far as the guard positions, again, I think AVT, he's got some versatility, some flexibility if you need him to move, but I think they want him at right guard. Tomlinson, you hope that he can bounce back from a disastrous first year with the Jets last year, making $18 million. But I think they're going to keep some depth on the offensive line. Turner's versatile. You got Schwitzer, who can play center or guard. And you even got Tippmann now, who's really starting to come on strong over the last 2 weeks. Possibly an option to be your center, and then maybe you move McGovern over. So a lot of different things can transpire over the next couple weeks here with the offensive line. So interesting to see how that plays out. The defensive line, completely different, and so cool to talk about, where you just got waves and waves and waves of pass rushers. And you look at the second unit right now between Quentin Jefferson, Al Woods, Clemens, Bryce Huff, Will McDonald. You want to throw Solomon Thomas in there, or Tanzel Smart, however many you're going to keep. That's a second unit that will be starting on so many teams right now. And the fact that that's the Jets' second unit is just insane. And you got Carl Lawson, who nobody's talking about right now. Jermaine Johnson, who looks like a completely different player. Quinnen Williams, who's still your best defensive lineman. And JFM, who you can pretty much plug in anywhere. So a lot of versatility, a lot of speed. The edge position, which has been a nightmare for the Jets for so many years, now you got 4 legitimate options out there. So, this is cool. And when you factor in Aaron Rodgers and the ability of this offense to hopefully put up points this year, thinking about these guys in the third and fourth quarter of games with a 2 or 3 touchdown lead, being able to pin their ears back and just go, my God. It's crazy to think about. And again, if you look at the Jets defense last year, Saleh rarely blitzed. I'm sure we're going to get Kyle Dominguez on at some point. He's apparently been doing some film research on the Jets defense. I've been sitting with him in practice, but apparently he's been watching a lot of tape from last year. And, it's well known the Jets really don't blitz at all. And you can almost make the case that they don't need to with all the guys that they have on this defensive line. But you also have a pair of lockdown corners, and if you want to throw Michael Carter in there, you essentially have 3 lockdown corners where you could actually get a little bit more aggressive and send an extra rusher or two. So very curious to see what Saleh's approach is with the defense, but they are loaded with talent, especially up front. Linebacker, a little bit more questions as far as Sherwood. Is he ready to go? You got some inexperience there. Zaire Barnes, he's been looking pretty good over the last week or two. Chas Surratt, it seemed like he had his roster spot locked up, and then he got injured. So does that affect him at all? Or do they still have plans to maybe bring in a veteran? As far as the secondary goes, again, your top three corners are set. Eccles suspended week 1. And Justin Hardy is your special teams ace. So do you keep an extra corner until Eccles is back? I tend to think that they might actually go one corner short for week 1 and just have faith that the top three aren't going to get hurt, because you have so many other positions with legitimate talent between the D-line, your tight end group. Are you going to keep 5 or 6 wide receivers? That's another position I forgot to mention on the offensive side of the ball with with Brownlee versus Irvin Charles and Malik Taylor. Those are 3 legitimate options to potentially be your number 6 wideout if they do keep 6. So you got a lot of talent in other places. So I tend to think that the Jets might actually make a decision just to go one corner short, and I think that last corner spot is probably between Bryce Hall, who's been nicked up a little bit, and you got Jimmy Moreland and Craig James, who have been stepping up a little bit, making plays and getting a lot of playing time in preseason as well. So I tend to think one of those 3 are probably going to make it. The other 2 may land on the practice squad. And then when you go to safety, it seems like Tony Adams has locked up his spot. Just the fact that he's not even playing at all as a young player in preseason, I think that tells us, that they have a lot of high hopes for him. So then you look at, are you going to keep a 4th after Whitehead and Amos, and who's it going to be? Ashton Davis, he's actually been making some plays recently. Douglas invested a 3rd-round pick in him. Do they want to see that through? Or do you take a chance on one of these young kids in Trey Dean and Marquise Waters, who have been getting some playing time in preseason as well? So a lot of battles that are really starting to heat up. Again, a little over 2 weeks to go until the final cutdown day. Curious to see what we get out of the joint practices on Wednesday and Thursday. Our good friend Todd Bowles is going to be in house, so excited to see what we get from those 2 practices and just seeing it up close, being able to go up against different competition. I wasn't able to get out to Carolina, and I know one of the practices got canceled there, so hopefully we do get 2 days back-to-back of some interesting matchups there. I'll be there again, so if you guys want to meet up or say hello, I'm usually top row right around the 50, so definitely say what's up. Otherwise, have a good night. We'll be live now tonight. It's Monday, so talk to you guys later.